What's up, y'all? Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if it happens to be your first time here, welcome especially. I'm Sally. I'm a metabolic health nutritionist. I share videos on all things nutrition and lifestyle, we'll say, and it means a lot that you've stopped by. Today I am sharing a few of my favorite ways to prepare ground beef that are a little bit outside the norm. We eat a ton of ground beef in my house because it is economical. We try to get exclusively grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef, or just like red meat in general. And ground beef is the most economical way by far to get that into our bodies on a regular basis. So we eat ground beef almost every single day. And while I love it just thrown in a pan, crumbled up with some random seasoning with potatoes or rice or fruit on the side, it can be fun to mix it up a little bit, make it feel a little bit more fancy, especially if you're eating it all the time. So here are, we'll say, like 3 of my favorite ways to mix it up. They are definitely in the weekly rotation. And the first is making some lettuce wrapped burgers. Now, obviously your burgers do not need to be lettuce wrapped. However, I am trying to make kind of like a copycat version of the In-N-Out animal style burgers where they are wrapped in lettuce. I was recently, admittedly, introduced to In-N-Out. It came to Boise like a few months ago, and I'm gonna confess, it is delicious, and I love their lettuce wrap burgers more than the regular one, like with a bun, because I think it just concentrates the meaty, cheesy taste, which is what I am there for. And then it's extra delicious with the In-N-Out sauce and the caramelized onions. I didn't do that on this particular day because I didn't really want to take the time, but you could absolutely make a version of In-N-Out sauce with homemade mayonnaise to keep it PUFA free and caramelize some onions, and it would be fantastic. So you saw me make my burger patties. I just divided my ground beef into 1/4 pound patties, seasoned them with salt and pepper, and tossed them onto the cast iron skillet. Then I prepared some lettuce. This was butter lettuce. It would work better with iceberg, I'm sure, because it would be crispier, but I pulled a few leaves off, rinsed them off, sat them aside to dry, and then I cut up some tomato. Here I am flipping those burger patties. I didn't show it on camera, but I did season the other side with salt and pepper while they were in the pan, and I just cooked them 2 at a time in my skillet, repeating the process until all of them are done. For mine, I added some cheese on top. My husband didn't want any, so I just added it to a couple, but this really added to the full effect, a little bit of melty cheese. I also wanted to add some avocado. We got a great deal on avocados at the grocery store this week. They're not actually usually something we eat because while they're really tasty, they are quite expensive and it's just not worth it to me, but we got a great deal. So I began, after the burgers were cooked, just assembling my lettuce wraps. My lettuce wrapping skills definitely need some work, so if you know how to do it really well, please let me know in the description or like point me to a tutorial. But I used 2 pieces of lettuce, I put some tomato, some avocado, and then I topped it with some ketchup and mustard, and I ate 2 of these, so it was a 1/2 pound of beef total with an orange on the side, and this was a delicious meal that we enjoyed outside in the sunshine. So next up, I am making some burrito bowls, and I know this sounds a little bit more basic, but there is a catch, which you'll see in a moment, and I will say these were extra fancy. They tasted better than Chipotle, and that was in large part due to the avocados we had on hand. I made a big batch of guacamole here. So my personal philosophy on guacamole is that it is just a vehicle for flavor. You need obviously enough avocados to make it nice and creamy, but then I love to just jam pack it with as much flavor as possible. So you'll see here in a second, of course, I'm going to be adding some lime juice to it. I think I added like juice of 3 limes. I like mine super tart. Don't hold back with the salt. You're gonna add salt, and then my personal favorite add-ins are going to be cilantro, jalapeno, and onion. Usually I would use red onion, but I didn't have any red onion on hand, so I just used white onion. And I grew up in a family where they made fantastic guacamole, so learned from a young age that you have to jam pack it with flavor. Anyway, just threw that all in there and started to mix it up. Fun fact about me, I hated cilantro for most of my life, but one day I decided, okay, I'm going to get myself to like this. And so I just started forcing myself to eat it. And now I literally love cilantro. They say it's genetic, and I'll believe that because it did taste like soap. But if that's not evidence that epigenetics are a thing, I don't know what is, because yeah, I hated it. It tasted like soap, and now I absolutely love it. Anyways, I got a little bit ahead on my voiceover, but as you can see, I'm just chopping up some onion. I threw it in there, and after making this guacamole, I wanted to just prepare my other vegetables to load on top of these burrito bowls. So I started chopping up some lettuce. This is that same butter lettuce that I used in my burgers the other day, and it's really helpful to, find different ways to use the same ingredients throughout the week, just in terms of saving money. And I hope that this video gives a little bit of inspiration for that. Like, got tomatoes and lettuce, but then used them multiple ways and made meals extra delicious. So once my vegetables were ready and to the side, I started to cook the ground beef. This is 93.7 ground beef. I did add a little bit of oil to the pan just because it is so lean. Needed a little bit of extra fat to get it to cook up properly. And I just crumble that into the pan here. You'll see in a second the secret. What makes this extra special is the addition of chicken liver. You might be wondering what's sitting in that last glass container off to the side, looking all suspicious and goopy. That is pureed chicken liver. It tastes good when it's mixed with ground beef. You don't notice it. I did 2 pounds of ground beef with 8 ounces of chicken liver. The other day I did 1 pound of ground beef with 8 ounces of chicken liver. It was still delicious. And I just cook that in. It's a fantastic source of retinol, your vitamin A, of lots of B vitamins, of copper, so many necessary nutrients that most people do not get enough of in a bioavailable form. So definitely find ways to sneak that liver in. And if you want more ideas, check out Basics, my starter guide. I share 2 of my favorite hidden liver recipes. I promise you they are delicious. But now it's just time to load up the beef and chicken liver with seasoning. You can totally put beef liver in this too, by the way. I just haven't been able to get beef liver at the store recently, but it is even more nutrient dense. So I added some chili powder with smoked paprika. It was like a blend, cumin, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And now I have a bed of rice. I am just piling on the beef. My husband and I will split this over the course of a few days, so we both get in our 4-ounce serving of chicken liver or some kind of liver for the week, and then adding lots of that flavor-packed guacamole, topping it with tomatoes, topping it with lettuce. You guys know how to make burrito bowls. Just top it with whatever you want, but again, the addition of that chicken liver and the treat that was that guacamole really took this to the next level. It was thoroughly enjoyed. Okay, last recipe, and I do apologize that the lighting is not the best here. It was late in the day, and this is what I was working with. But I am making a mince pie. The inspiration is like a Scottish mince pie, but instead of making little ones, which is probably what you've seen if you're familiar with that concept, I'm making a big one. This is super easy to throw together, and it tastes luxurious and delicious. So start off by chopping 1 large onion, throwing that into a skillet with a little bit of cooking oil. I use avocado oil just about all the time when I'm cooking because it has a high smoke point, is low PUFA, and is just easy to keep on hand, neutral flavor. And while my onions are cooking down, I want them to get nice and browned. I am lining my pie dish with a pie crust. You can make these from home or at home. You can make them sourdough even if you want, or you can get them from the store. But I'm begging you, if you get it from the store, please find one that is made with lard or with butter and not with vegetable shortening. So now that my pie pan is prepared, I'm adding my ground beef, and we're just going to brown that with the onions. You can really season this however you want, and I guess typical British fashion, and I don't mean any insult to any English folk who are watching my video. Please understand, I love the food in London, at least not all of it, but I visited London and I thought that as a whole everything was really tasty, but there's always the joke that Brits don't season their food, right? Okay, well, all of the recipes I found literally had salt and maybe Worcestershire sauce. Some of them had thyme and basil, but there was not much seasoning. So I just kind of did my own thing, but I added about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, salt, I added some basil, I added garlic, and then Most recipes actually say thicken it with cornstarch, but I don't do that. I use a little bit of flour. I find that it works even better. Prefer to put that in my body than cornstarch. And then I just stir that in and cook it down until it begins to thicken. You are going to put this all into your pie crust. My oven has preheated to, I think it's at 375. You can see it there in the background. It's at 375. Smash this down. I use 2 pounds of beet, by the way, but you can totally load it up with 3. I've done that in the past as well if you want. And then you're going to put your top crust on as well. So just make sure to crimp the edges really well to keep everything intact, or rather like on the inside, if you know what I mean. And once you've crimped the edges, you're going to make an incision in the middle. Of course, you can do all sorts of fun designs with this, but I kept it really simple, and just cut like a little cross into the middle. So after it was good to go in this department, I just popped it into the oven again at 375 for about 40 minutes. You want to cook it until it is nice and brown, nice and golden. Again, the beef is fully cooked, so you don't have to worry too much about the insides being cooked. You don't have to worry at all about it. Just make sure that your crust looks beautiful. You are going to pull it out, and ideally you want to let it cool for at least 30 minutes to an hour. We were really hungry and I was in a little bit of a rush, so didn't let it cool for quite that long. And you'll see in a second it kind of falls apart a little bit as I'm getting it out of the pie dish, but we had it the next day, and once it was fully cool, it stayed together completely. But this is delicious. It feels fancy. It's ultimately not that hard to put together as long as you have, like, especially if you have pie crusts on hand. And it pairs really nicely with just a side salad, or like, I don't know, I feel like some steamed peas or something would also be delicious with it. But I hope you enjoyed these recipes. Comment down below. We'll just say if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please consider subscribing. And until next time, bye y'all.